For our next episode of Titans of Today, we have Jay Schwide. He is the founder and CEO of Effluence, an end-to-end production film company, and former tennis pro who's now on his way to start a brand new venture called Village, something he is extremely excited to share, and which is the topic of our show today. So Jay, welcome to Titans of Today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. You're very welcome. I want everybody to get familiar, to understand a little bit more about you, your history. What has been your journey so far in life?
Born and raised New Yorker, been in and around sports and entertainment my whole life. I learned early on that entertainment is more than just film or theater or music. It's a way that you can entertain people in any form. So it could be hospitality, it could be art, it could be fashion, it could be all different things. And somehow I navigated those worlds, playing sports my whole life and being around New York. You just meet a lot of different people. And the artistic vibe always was drawn to me. I don't know that I don't consider myself an artist, although some people think I might be, but I understand the artistic mindset and how they function and what they do, but I also understand the practical and business side of things. And somehow I've navigated those worlds. So it's been something I've been in and around my whole life.
And you mentioned the art and business, but also when you started a business when you were a tennis pro and it was a racket stringing business, you know, that you were known as somebody.
Can't believe everything you read on that internet.
But maybe this is a good chance to dispel or prove it. The internet said that you were known as a contact that tennis pros could reach out to if they had questions about how to structure a deal or things of that nature. So give us more light on that. And is it true, first off?
Yeah, the internet got something right. So that is true. So I was an aspiring tennis pro. I turned pro, and my goal was to be on tour full time, which was unfortunately a very expensive thing to do until you get to that point where you can really make a living doing it. A lot of players don't. So I had to figure out how to survive and cover my costs, training, traveling, all that sort of stuff. And I taught myself how to string rackets at first because I was breaking strings like crazy and it was really expensive. And then I just started doing it for friends, just as a way to make a couple extra bucks. And then as I kept doing it, I started realizing that the way it was being done didn't make any sense. Like it just was illogical to me. And so I started experimenting, and then I was doing it for some friends and other players, really good players. And they were like, "What did you do to my racket?" And I was like, "Oh, wow, I'm in trouble. Like my racket's never played this great. I don't know what you did, but keep doing it." And that kept going from one player to another. And then that ended up being my first business. So I was stringing, customizing, and designing rackets for top players. The stringing part was one thing that I looked into. And then I also realized that players' rackets were not all the same. So even though they looked exactly the same on the outside, they played differently. And I didn't understand why. And so I started investigating and toying around with it. And I started to figure out if I could make every player's racket play the same, if they break a string during a match and they pick up the next racket, they can continue on and maybe win the match. Whereas if the next racket's not their favorite racket, they might lose a match. And that could be a lot of money for a lot of these guys and girls. So I developed these techniques, and that was my first business. And so doing that, which was great. I got to travel the world. I got to meet all these different people. But by getting friendly with the players, I think one of the reasons that I was able to do well in that business was I understood what the players were going through. I understood what it felt like to be on court. I understood the pressure. And then I understood how people were coming at them all the time. And with this and that, they didn't know who to trust. And I was trusted because I was one of them, more so than an agent was, or a racket company or a clothing sponsor. So little by little, they started just asking me my opinion here and there, and then agents would ask me. So I was this unknown liaison. I certainly didn't make any money on any of that. Unfortunately, maybe I should have. But I didn't do it for that reason. I was like, if I can help them and see things in a different way, that's just what I did. So yeah, so that was something that I did for many years. And that's where all my other things came into play. Like I started a concierge service because players were asking me, you know, what club do I go to? What restaurant do I go to? Do you know anybody in this hotel? Oh, how do I book a flight? And so it just evolved. Connecting those dots, I guess, has been something I've been doing my whole life.
So you got passionate about solving a set of problems for a particular group of people that you could have an impact on. And that became something that you used to support yourself and achieve success, as many would call it, by starting your own business and growing that.
Yeah, that's actually that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I get not by design, but yes, that's what I did. I just realized in meeting different people and I was always very open, and maybe it's because I'm born and raised in New York, or my father was European, my mother was Middle Eastern, Israeli, and I have these different cultures inside of me. It's in my subconscious. It's not something I realize, I just do it. So I have an affinity and an attraction to just all different kinds of people and things. So I'm intrigued and I'm respectful of other cultures and other people. But then I realize that sometimes the communication is not that great, but I'm totally getting it. And I feel like it's like a Peanuts or the teacher talking, like I totally get what they're saying, but then the other person is totally lost. So I became that kind of person that understand that. And I think maybe that's why artists are so comfortable with me, because I get what they're feeling, and they get frustrated because nobody sees what I'm doing. Nobody understands my process. I just done that throughout my career with everything I've done. So even going into production, it was the same thing of understanding different people, whether it was a client or whether it was a concept that we came up with. It's understanding people and understanding their needs and their desires, and how do you put them in the best position for their success and for their happiness. That to me is the best thing you can do for someone.
So you've helped a lot of right brain people see into a left brain world or navigate their way. But what about the other way? How about for people who are left brain listeners going the other way? How do they understand the mind of an artist and what that life, that sphere of things is like?
Yeah, that's the tricky part. That's where the liaison or the being in the middle comes in. Like you again, you have to be respectful that their world is different. Their brain is different. They're seeing things in a different way. And you can't come at them aggressively, because that's not going to get you anywhere. There's no point in fighting with somebody about something, but it's trying to open their minds a little bit and say, maybe there's this way, or maybe there's that way, or what are you trying to accomplish? If someone is a business person, they're not trying to hurt the artist. Let's call those two worlds. But the person who's financing that, they're not trying to hurt them. They want it to be successful too. But because they're not sensitive enough to the other person's way of doing things, there's this aggression that comes in. And so they both think they're on opposite sides, but they're not on opposite sides. Their goals are identical. A clothing company sponsor, whether it's LeBron James or whoever, you want him to do well. So forcing something down his throat is not going to get anybody anywhere. Now he's mad at you and you're mad and you didn't get a return on your investment. It's the same thing with a painter, and it's the same thing with a filmmaker. If you can just get them to be like, give them the respect that they demand, which they come with, let's say with the money or the business expertise, and open them up and talk to them in a way that's respectful, 9 times out of 10, they're willing to listen. They want to improve. They want to expand their knowledge base, but their training is totally opposite. So they come in with a different approach and a different mentality. And when you can bring the temperature down and get them into a comfortable place, then they're listening. And once they're listening, then anything is possible.
I think as we go more into Village, perhaps we'll uncover deeper. I would love to go deeper on that specifically, but I think we can put that to when we get into
Sure.
Village. But what inspired you to get into film? What was the logical next step that took you into film?
There wasn't one. Just being on tour for all those years, I got to a point where I was like, I think it's time to move on and do something different. And I actually didn't have a clue what I was going to do next. Different friends had different opinions, as they do. And the consensus was something in either entertainment or hospitality, but there wasn't any, here's your career path, because I've never been that kind of career path kind of guy. And so I just started with, let me do something, start a new company. Let's see what happens. Let's see what can I do from nothing. And since I had done events in the past on tour, and I did various different things, I was like, that seems logical. Let me maybe reach out to some friends and see who needs some help. And I'll do some small events and see what happens. And then being in New York, I ended up doing a big fashion week after party. And then I did this party and that party. And then I would watch and see what was really going on and learning it. And there was a videographer and there was a photographer and there was a filmmaker. And I was like, well, how do they do that? Why do they do that? And maybe I can learn that a little bit. So one friend would be like, oh, I'd love to get involved in that. Or I have a video company and maybe we could work together. And little by little, it evolved. So it went from events to doing event videography, to doing videos, music videos, fashion videos, to commercials, then some feature films, some short films, some different, it just evolved. Like, it wasn't like I have this great idea and I'm going to do this thing. It just was, again, naturally being there as someone I felt I could help people, and people were coming to me asking for help. And so I figured out how to do that. And that's really how it started. It wasn't some incredibly master plan, like I'm going to start a production company.
What was the first movie that you created?
We shot a very small movie called Struck. which was a writer director who was introduced to me. And he actually came to us with a different project that we started working on, started developing together. And then he had this project that he was going to do as a play, and it fell through. And he's, hey, I think we can do this really cheap, really quick. And it would be great to get a film under our belt as a group. And I was like, sure, let's do it. And we did. I don't know how, quite frankly, but we did. And it was good. It wasn't unbelievable, but it was good. It was a nice little film. And then we got bit by the bug and we wanted to do more. And so we started working on other projects, a couple of short films. We won some awards for some short films that we did. We did another feature film called Another Kind that did okay as well. Won a couple of awards, got on Amazon, which was cool. Before it was a big deal to get on Amazon. Now a lot of people get on it, which is still a big deal, but it was a weird thing to do. And we did, which was cool. And then we started developing other films with the idea that we were going to start doing these bigger films. And that's when I started to really see, wow, this industry's messed up. And I started seeing the issues that are involved. And I was very similarly to how I got into the racket business, into the rackets, as some people have said. It wasn't that I wanted to do that. It was like there was something that just wasn't right. And nobody could give me an answer as to why. The answer was, that's just the way we do it. That's what they told me when I said, why do you string a racket that way? And they're like, that's just the way we do it. And I was like, that's not an answer. And when I was looking at films and talking to friends of mine, and I'm lucky, I'm very blessed that I've met people and know people that are super experienced, super intelligent, some famous people that I could go to and I'd be like, why do you do this like this? And they were like, that's just the way it is. I was like, yeah, but this is insane. And they're like, we know, but that's just the way we do it. And that's how Village came about. Again, it wasn't like I was like, I want to do this new great thing and change the world. It was like, this doesn't make any sense. There's got to be a solution to this. And that's how I came out. I was really just looking to find an easier way for us to get our films made. That was the initial goal. I have these great films. We've got to get them made. And we're running into one wall after another, and it makes no sense. And when I realized I couldn't find that solution, I said, then let's figure out how to build it. And because if we're not the only ones having the problem, maybe there's a real opportunity here. And that's really how it started.
So was the serial entrepreneur mind in the body of an executive producer for a while, and then you realized all these things by having those insights of, wait a second, what is the quality of thinking going on here? Are you running into those people who are saying, this is how it's done?
So Village is a platform for the entertainment industry that takes projects from concept to distribution, all on one platform, engaging creatives, fans, and investors. So it's part global community, part ecosystem, part marketplace that makes the entire process easier, more engaging, removes biases that are built in currently and inherent to many that are just the way systems are in place. It integrates transparency for anything and everybody that needs access to information, whether it's budgets or various ways to verify things. And it just makes the process a lot better, more streamlined, easier. So if you're in the industry and you're a creative and you want to engage with other creatives, this will be your place. If you have a project that you're trying to get done, Village gives you all the tools, resources, and systems in place to guide that entire process so you can focus on what you do best. If you're an investor, it gives you real data and real information to really understand what you're actually investing in, as opposed to just some cool project with some famous person in it. And you can follow the trail of your money from the second you invest all the way through till you start making your returns, which currently you cannot do at all. And for fans, it really gives them an opportunity to get involved as early as they would like. They can engage with other fans. They can engage with people that are working in the industry. They can learn, why did they pick that location? Why was that guy's jacket red? Why is the dialogue written that way? All the interesting things that people are fascinated by, which they just don't have access to, Village will be that place for them to really engage and get around that. And at the end of the day, that creates this incredibly wonderful community that really has such an impact around the world. Storytelling really touches people. You don't know what kind of impact you're going to have. And I think giving people that opportunity, giving people that ability, it's just a beautiful thing. And aside from creating jobs and creating opportunities and showing people different parts of the world and all that wonderful stuff, which is great too, just the telling of stories is just a beautiful thing. And I think the more opportunities we can create, whether it's a first-time filmmaker or an Academy Award winner, we all have these same problems. And so making that easier for everybody that just feels like the right thing to do.
Absolutely. Now, if you were to give more information on what that journey is like presently versus where it will be with Village once it's in its fruition, and even from, let's say, from an investor's perspective, the opportunities therein for engagement and really the greater scope of the opportunity that is the entertainment industry for someone maybe who doesn't have as much experience as you do there.
From a filmmaker's perspective, there's certainly a lot of different roles within the filmmaking industry, for sure. There's the writer who comes up with the story and the idea. There's the director, there's the producer, there's the actor and actress. Those are the obvious ones. And then there's all the crew. That can be hundreds and hundreds of people on any one film or TV show. So their journey right now is very disconnected. The ability to get a job is not linear. It's all a little all over the place. You hear about a job, you apply, you may not hear back. You don't know if you have the right credentials. You don't know if you're going to get paid. It's not seamless. It's not automated. It's not connecting the right person for the right job. This person's available. They have all the qualifications. The rate that they normally charge fits the budget. There's none of that's happening. So it just makes for 10 times more work for a person who's qualified, that wants to work, that's available to get that job. It's incredibly difficult as the producer or whatever role or whoever's hiring on the project to find those people. So you just lose all this time and all this energy. And you take people that are by default creative and make them do business things that they're really not good at. You're just asking for it to be a mess. And if you think about the process of how something goes from an idea to get out into a theater or streaming, it's so many different steps that you have to go through, which the average person can understand that there must be a lot of work involved. But writing a script and getting someone to review that script, however that's done, whether it's with technology or people reading it, reviewing it with expertise, I write the script, I submit it, hopefully to the right people, and I get some sort of feedback that tells me it's good or it's not. Great, now what? And that becomes the problem. And now what is, now I have to find an investor. I don't know how to find an investor, I'm a writer. Or I have to find a producer who's going to help me produce that. How do I know the producer's not going to take advantage of me? How do I know that's the right producer? What have they done? All these sort of steps. And every one of those steps is a totally different skill set, a totally different way of operating. So when you bring those things together, the writer can feel safe in their journey. They're connected with the right people that are the right people for their script. There's parameters so they don't get screwed over. There's technology that protects them, that it's they own it, as opposed to someone saying, thanks for sending it to me, now it's mine. All these different things that when you bring them together and you use technology where it's most important to make it easier for people and human interaction where you need that touch point, bringing those two things together as it navigates through the process, that's a huge change from the way it is right now.
And you talk about bringing those technologies together, but you're also bringing people together. So who's on your team and who are the people that are supporting you in this?
So there's the core people that are friends and colleagues that I've known for years that have been working on their own different things, and we're all coming together to build the village. So there's a dear friend of mine, Monica, who has an AI company that has developed technology that analyzes scripts, and they can do breakdowns on scripts that are beyond anything anyone has done to date, that we will work with them and their technology, and she will integrate herself and her team into what we do. They can analyze everything from speech to this conversation, for example. If this was written, her technology can analyze what the tone of that conversation was. Was it aggressive? Were we fighting? Were we not? Did we like each other? So on and so forth. How many other people are in this conversation? How many times has that happened throughout the script? And using all of that and comparing it to thousands and thousands of other scripts, we can do predictive analysis to say the likelihood of success of that script, the likelihood that people will like it, the likelihood that it will have box office success, which is phenomenal and something that we want as well. And what Village then does is we then add our other ideas and our other technologies that we will build on top of that to integrate that within our whole platform. Darshita is another brilliant woman who has a ESG fintech platform that helps investors and any funds that are looking to do impact investments to understand if their investments are actually impact related investments, if they're going to have the impact they are looking to do, and follow that process to see if it actually had the results that they were expecting. And since there's obviously a financial component to our platform and there's an impact component to our platform, she just was such a logical fit for me. Plus, she's a genius and her teams are genius, which is all brilliant. They can help us on the financial modeling. How do we track impact? What a beautiful thing to do a film that could be about anything, a comedy, and to be able to assess, did that have impact? Did that help people? Were they happier from that comedy? Did they do good things, follow up on that? So that to me was a brilliant way to integrate that in. And then another friend of mine, Richie, who has built a charity platform, who you may have seen like at cash register and stuff, where there's that roundup thing where you can at the cash register. So they built a technology like that early on. And they work with Global Citizen and MasterCard and all these other big companies on charitable causes. So when there's an event or something they want to do, they build all the technology that helps make that process as simple and easy as possible. And we have a charitable component built into our platform. So I was always looking for that sort of person or tech that could come into play. And they have a great customer acquisition model. They understand how to hit touch points, how to get people to engage, which is obviously important for us because we're going to need members to support what we're doing. So they're at the beginnings of the team. There's the core of they're going to be helping with the build and the initial launch of the platform, them and their teams, and then helping us build out our team from that. And then again, I'm very blessed to have friends that are kind of part of the family, so to speak, or the team, and whatever you want to call them, that are there to help with all the different things that we need as we do things. So actors and actresses and producers and fans that are always there as we start building, that have all volunteered to come on board and help us with whatever we need, feedback and be initial members and stuff like that. So it's a kind of a really cool feeling to know that they're there. And obviously we have to get there, but to know that I've got that to be able to turn to when the time is right is it's pretty cool.
And when you're going through this, what would the customer experience be like? Because you're actually with Village going to be promoting these films as well, distributing them, helping them get to the audiences that really matter. So if I'm, a viewer, what would my experience look like? What would the interaction be like?
So as a fan, let's say, or as an audience member, or a member of our community, you'll be able to navigate as you like. You'll be able to engage with other fans, connect yourself with people that like similar films or TV shows or actors or producers that you like. You'll be able to watch different videos about what's going on, see pictures, see interviews about how a film's made, what went on set, different things that people don't get to see, which I think is really cool. And then the ones that you choose to follow, which you can, will be there to guide you. So when the film is done and it gets released, you'll know everything you need to know. So based on where you are and based on our algorithms, we'll know, oh, you're here. It's available. It's going to be screening here next week, or it's now going to be on streaming next month, and here's where you can watch it. So by default, we are not competing with anybody. That's one of the core, from a business perspective, it's a very important core model for us. Our goal is not to come in and be the next Netflix or be the next anything. We're Village, we're our own thing, and we're here to help make it easier for everybody. When a film comes through the platform, our goal is for it to be successful. I don't care if Netflix is the right home for that film, then we're going to help get it on Netflix. If Amazon is the right home or Hulu is right, then we're going to get it there. If it should be in theaters throughout France and Germany, then we're going to figure out how to get it there. So we're there to facilitate and to navigate, but not to compete with people. So we are not streaming per se, but we will guide you to where you can see it and where it can be available. When a film has gone through its life cycle, which films do or TV shows do, and whatever distributor has said, okay, thank you, this was great, and here you go, here's your project. We're not interested, we're not going to show it on our platform anymore. We want to have that as a library. So that's down the road, maybe 5-8 years down the road. But we want to be that library so that you can watch it later, so that it just doesn't die or sit on some hard drive someplace. It'll be there. But again, that's not competing with anybody because people have said we don't want it on our platform anymore. We want to have that respect for the filmmakers and the fans that might want to see it 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, as a place to have that. But there's no logic for us doing that in the beginning because we want it to get the greatest exposure it can get. It's unrealistic for us to think that we would be able to go and do that right out of the gate. It's not logical. And I want to see Netflix and Disney and all those other guys be around because they're doing a good job.
Absolutely. And so what is it that really drives your work then, moving forward, long-term vision looking? What is that key impact that you believe that you're going to have in the world 15 years down the road when all this is successful?
That's a good question. I don't really think like that so much. My goal is to help connect people and help people learn and have better lives and whatever that means for them. So I think Village is a way for me to do what I've done my whole life at scale. I've always connected people. I've always been that person who says, oh, you need that. Yes, I know someone who can do that for you. Oh, I know a place where you can go to get that. And Village becomes that place where that starts to happen at scale. So it's not just me doing it, it's everybody's doing that because everybody is going to want to see somebody else do well because it becomes this community of people. If you're living in some little town in the middle of wherever, in a different country, in America, in Asia, in South America, and you're like, this place is such a great place to shoot a film. People need to know about this. They're not going to know about it by themselves. But if you, as part of the community, be like, hey, I took some pictures, I checked out the local community. If anybody wants to come film here, I can introduce you to somebody. Now, they feel like a rock star because they're putting their little town or country, for that matter, on the map. And some filmmaker in LA or France or London is like, oh my goodness, I've never heard of this place. We got to go shoot there. And it's cheaper and it's better and the people are so nice. To be able to do that, wow. That's so cool. And that has an impact. That's good for the economy of that town. It's good for a film or a TV show to get made that might not get made because they couldn't afford to do it other ways. That's what I see us becoming, like this community that just ultimately, it becomes contagious for everybody to help everybody and to see great things being happening. Yeah, I did that. I was part of that. I voted for that. We like that as humans. And I think it's cool.
Now, what is your number one priority right now for creating Village?
Fundraising obviously is important. People like to get paid. I know that sounds crazy, but getting the funds in place so that we can really build it at the pace that we need to build it. We can do it very slowly at this point because everybody needs to do what they need to do to survive. And I get that. So I would say fundraising is probably the main focus of doing that. I think I'm always connecting and talking to new people, filmmakers, fans, investors, and they're all engaging. And it's natural. Oh, what do you do? And I tell them, and they're like, oh, I can't wait to be part of it. And that's awesome. But getting the funds in place so that the focus can be there, like the full focus can be there. Everybody that has volunteered or offered to be part of the team can say, okay, we're ready to go. And as long as I can pay them, then I can do that with good conscience. So I'd say the fundraising is probably the most important. But as far as me being open, you never know where that comes from. So I'm always open to talking to anybody that likes what this is about, that feels they can add some sort of value to it. That's always a positive thing.
And what would it take to actually get Village running in terms of financial resources?
This round, we're raising $9 million to do the initial launch, which will give us about 18 months runway to get it up and running. And there'll be the first iteration, which would go live with fans built in, with already the platform up and running, because we will be integrating everything as we're doing the build. So when it launches, you'll already see projects that are on there that are in the works. You'll see fans engaging because we will do that behind the scenes during the build so that when it launches, it's a live platform. And then as other tech platforms go, we would continue our fundraising to then expand it, add more features, and just continue to grow it from there.
Got it. And what is the most valuable lesson then that people can learn from you, your history, your experience, your vision and things moving forward that they can apply in their own lives?
Stay in school. No, don't. I dropped out of high school, but that's not the example I'm teaching. I think that I don't know necessarily that I'm the best person to teach other people, but I think it's very important in life to just be open-minded and to really listen and to just be open to all things. I remember when I did have my tennis company and I was young, I was a punk. I'm still a punk. I was a punk kid and I thought I knew everything. And I thought I was so smart and I thought I was so hot and all this sort of stuff. And I was in a meeting with a fairly important person. And I had an advisor at the time who was a good friend that was quite a bit older than I was. And I went through this meeting and I was apparently arrogant. I didn't realize it. And after the meeting, my friend was like, listen, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. I need you to take this really seriously. I was like, yeah, sure. Shut the up.
Wow.
I was like, what? He was like, just shut up. I was like, what are you talking about? I need you to not talk. I need you to, when you're in a meeting, I need you to just shut up and listen to what the other person says and then talk. And it was the best advice, probably one of the best pieces of advice I'd ever gotten in my life. And I've learned that watching creatives and business people over and over again, and you see them in meetings, they're not listening. Like sometimes they're talking and sometimes they overtalk the other person, but they very rarely are actually listening. And I've done that with up and coming writers and directors and fashion people. And I'll be in a meeting with them, okay, this is where you stop listening when they said that. They're like, no, I didn't speak till it was my turn. I was like, I know when you spoke, but you stopped listening. And you're therefore what you said didn't have the impact. It didn't have the value. So I think really learning how to listen and take in what other people have to say, because you just don't know what you could learn. You could learn from everybody. And my father told me that. He said, you can learn as much from the janitor as you can from the CEO. If people did that more, I think, not to get all kumbaya, but we wouldn't have as many wars. We wouldn't have as many arguments. We wouldn't have as much tension in politics and everything. Like, just listen to the other person. And then let's have a dialogue about it. And then because people don't want to be miserable in general. So I think if that, I guess that would be my best advice, really, is just, listen, learn, open your eyes, and be sensitive and compassionate to others. I think if you can do that, anything is possible.
So the difference between listening and hearing.
Yep.
And of course, there's multiple levels of listening. You can listen to someone's words, but actually maybe there's more, right, in their eyes and other things. Right. I've noticed that at various times you maybe sense how someone is feeling in essence.
Right. Yeah, sometimes it's not what they say, sometimes what they don't say. And I'm not saying it's not easy to get that deep. And I'm not saying you have to get that deep. But if you at least do that first part, which you can do, you can not talk till it's your turn. You can stop yourself from thinking about what you're going to say until it's time for you to do that. Those things are within our power. But not everybody's that sensitive. Not everybody has those skills to be that sensitive to that question. That's okay. But I think if you can at least do that first part, that's a huge step. It's a huge step forward for all of us.
Something we can all hone and develop and learn from that. Absolutely. So Jay, what is your final call to action for all of our listeners?
Go have a nice weekend would be my call to action for everybody. Take a day off every once in a while and enjoy the beautiful world that we've been given. Yeah, I don't have anything outside of just everybody just do what I was saying. I think my call to action for people would be just try and be more sensitive and kind and do something nice for somebody without wanting anything in return. I think that would be a great step forward. And if you want to follow us and pay attention to what we're doing and be supportive as we go along the journey and become part of the Village community, that would be amazing.
Phenomenal. Jay, we'll include your contact details so people can reach out to investors as well to support Village. It's definitely an exciting project. Stay up to date there. Thanks for being on our show, Jay. We'll see you in the next episode.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching this episode of Titans Up today. What did you learn from it? Make sure to drop a comment below with your most valuable insight so that other people can engage in the conversation around what this speaker brought to the table. And then on another front, make sure to subscribe so that every time we drop a new episode, you will be notified. And that way you can keep fueling your dreams and your brain with fresh insights which can help you along your journey and along your path to your goals. So thank you so much again, and I look forward to seeing you in the next interview.